And now, an 8th special presentation.
This time on Art Beat Nation. Stand face to face with American presidents.
Big monumental pieces, they have to be at a place where they can be seen.
Meet a local artist capturing a new perspective.
I wanted to show these people that this stuff exists. I mean, this stuff is here. It's beautiful scenery just out your doorstep.
Tour a castle with galleries fit for a king.
His eyebrows are almost human hair from 15 different parts of my body because I don't throw anything away.
And meet an artist who paints the spaces she wants to inhabit.
You know, that's the type of thing I want to paint, is would I want to be there?
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Beat Nation. Funding for Art Beat Nation is made possible by donations to Curate, the Arizona PBS Arts and Culture Fund, and by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you. They say everything's bigger in Texas, but after visiting Mount Rushmore, Houston artist David Addix decided that the monument was too big to be observed up close, so he made his own slightly smaller set of presidential busts. Take a look.
Bill Clinton, that's Andrew Jackson. He had all that lovely hair. Can't tell whose body that is. They all look alike. Lincoln, Obama's body is somewhere around here. There's Van Buren. There's Taft. Can't miss him. My name is David Addix. I'm a sculptor and a painter. That's Calvin Coolidge, who was president when I was born. And there aren't many people that can say that now. There's Hoover, who was president when I grew up. So I went to Canada to visit friends. And on the way back, I drove through Mount Rushmore and saw that for the first time and was really overwhelmed by the majesty of it, the size of it. But the problem was I couldn't get close to it. You have to look at them through binoculars, you know, they're far away, to see that expression in their eyes. And I missed that part. So when I was driving back to Texas, the idea popped into my small brain, wouldn't it be a great idea to do the presidents big, but not that big? So I thought, I can't do just the 4, I'll do all of them. So there were 42 at the time. And that's how this came to be. One of these would be Jefferson, the other would be Washington, because that was the style. All those bearded guys were from Ohio, and it was kind of one after the other, and they all looked alike. And I have a hard time remembering myself. This, I remember, is Teddy Roosevelt by the tie. He liked that design, but his head is around the corner. Start with a life-size model in clay, and draw a line parallel to the floor every ½ inch. And then you, with a little contour device, you get those shapes. Then when you have all those, you convert that to acetate or film, put them on an overhead projector and project those on styrofoam. And the styrofoam is then cut out and stacked up. And the analogy is kind of like if you took a green pepper and cut it up for a salad and enlarged every piece times 10, put it back together, you'd have that exact shape times 10. So you finish it off in plaster and clay and then make a giant rubber mold of the whole head. Concrete is washed into those 5 layers with various reinforcement in the concrete, fiberglass mesh and steel mesh. Then those 2 halves are put together. And one of my guys crawls inside and welds them together, and then that makes the head. All the heads are not the same size. 8 of them are 20% bigger than the rest because Arthur Schlesinger years ago decided to try to get all the presidents evaluated in the opinion of the heads of history departments in major universities around the country. So when that consensus came in, there were 8 of them that were called the great presidents. So I decided to make them bigger. My favorite would be Lincoln because he was easy to do. There were so many great photographs of him, and his features are, you can't confuse him with anybody else. The hardest to do, sort of, was Ford, because he doesn't have features that jump out at you. Beatles, why are they here? They're here quite coincidentally. They have nothing to do with the president's head. Well, I wanted to do standing figures that have no arms, but their instruments are part of the composition. I love the Beatles, everybody does, so the Beatles were a natural choice. Ringo's going to play drums on Roosevelt's head. Now, that's not right either. Big monumental pieces, they have to be at a place where they can be seen. Here's Teddy Roosevelt, there's George W., and here's LBJ, and that's Chester Arthur with all that sideburn stuff. It's a crazy idea, but I have a crazy idea. Here's Jefferson, and there's Nixon, Madison, James Madison, Harry Truman. It's a curse.
To learn more, visit addictsfoundation.com. For Sacramento artist Justin Majeski, a photo is truly worth 1,000 words. Through time-lapse photography, Majeski invites each viewer to see the beauty that surrounds us frame by frame.
Usually I try and give the viewer, obviously, my point of view. I mean, that's what makes art so wonderful, is that it's completely subjective. I remember seeing a photo that was on a National Geographic cover, and you might know it, it's kind of famous. It was a young woman from another country, and her eyes, her green eyes, I remember being about 12 years old, and just looking at that photo, and it made me feel something different inside. I don't know, it made me feel in a way that I've never felt by looking at a photograph, and I didn't even know that that was possible. I didn't know that you could look at an image and it would change your outlook. And from that day, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to produce content that would change people's outlooks on their lives. I've always liked video and I've always liked photography, so time-lapse was a perfect marriage between the two. You have to pretty much do as much pre-production as you do shooting. So equal time, 50-50, knowing where you're going, why you're going there, what time of the day you're going. Those are all huge factors in what I do. There was an evening I wanted to go shoot some starscapes, and there was supposed to be a chance of thunderstorms. And I knew the Milky Way came out at about 10 o'clock, and then I knew that the storms were supposed to roll in at about 11:30 or 12 o'clock, I think. And I knew that the combination was there for something really interesting and dynamic to happen. So we did it. We put everything in the car, drove 2 hours, 2.5 hours to Emerald Bay, and shot a time lapse. And sure enough, Milky Way comes out, and then all of a sudden these big storm clouds come in, just lightning and thunder all over the place. That's a good example of pre-planning, pre-cognitive thought into what you're going to go actually shoot, and having nature perform for you. I mean, it just all came together. That's definitely my favorite shot I've ever shot. When I arrive on a scene, I like to kind of look over the whole scene. I'll kind of survey and pick my composition on what I think is the strongest, and that's, obviously something that's subjective to the artist. I'll look at my rig, and I'll decide, okay, yeah, this is what I want, and then I'll go ahead and I'll start the time lapse. Every time it's different. It depends on the subject matter of what I'm shooting, of how long I'll shoot. Night scenes sometimes are up to 8 hours. Sometimes the cityscapes are 20 minutes. When I made the Sacramento film, immediately it hit me that there's this really beautiful contrast between the rural, outlying areas of the country that are just beautiful, and morning sunrise and the sunflowers and all of the agriculture, and just 10 minutes outside of the bustling city, this exists. So once it got released, my goal for the film was to get 50,000 online views in a month. And I thought that goal was really attainable because it's a city and there's people in the city. My expectations were exceeded in the second day. it started getting posted on other blog sites, F-Stoppers, CNN. It was kind of everywhere for a little while there. And, just really humbling and exciting. I like to believe I was maybe born an artist. I don't know if that's true or not, but my grandfather and great-grandfather were award-winning photographers in Baltimore, and my grandfather used to shoot for the Baltimore Zoo and all that stuff. And so I kind of grew up around photography. He had a photography studio in his basement that I would always go down and Google at when I was young, you know. I heard a good quote once, and the difference between a professional photographer and an amateur photographer is professionals already made all the mistakes. And I take that to heart, and I think that's completely true, because I have failed a lot, and you will too, you know, but that's part of learning. Me and my wife this summer are gonna go travel around the western seaboard, and we're gonna shoot a bunch of time lapses and photos while we're out there camping, and just keep putting more content out there, more inspiring content. A lot of people spend a lot of time in their homes, and they don't get really to go out and appreciate like a nice sunset or sunrise or the stars or things like that. And I wanted to show these people that this stuff exists. I mean, this stuff is here. It's beautiful scenery just out your doorstep. And I want to inspire people to go outside and enjoy nature, because it's all around us.
To see more, visit Variant3.com. Up next, Florida resident Howard Solomon welcomes us into his home and gallery, a unique building reminiscent of a medieval castle. Starting with scraps of metal, wood, and even printing plates, Solomon has built an artistic fortress that continues to inspire him and those who visit.
My name is Howard Solomon. We're in Hardee County, and I've been here for 41 years. I think of it as my home. A man's castle is his home. My intention was to build a combination home and studio. There wasn't enough horizontal land for my plan. I built the castle because I had to build up instead of out. And one day, reading the local paper, I saw that the paper had an ad to sell printing plates for 10 cents a piece. And I said, well, that would be a very reflective material, and it's rust-proof, and it would make a nice shiny castle. I learned as I went, and I made errors along the way, and some of the errors I have to live with. I learned whatever I had to learn, and it wound up to be something like 20 or 25 different trades. When I look at a piece of scrap metal, or junk as we call it, it reminds me of something. It might look like a nose or an ear or a hand. And that's the nucleus of the idea. Since I have my own junkyard, find pieces to go with it and just weld them together until it looks like something that you don't have to guess what it's supposed to be. It looks like what I intend it to be. I prefer to call my work impressionistic realism. I've always made wooden pictures, and they're called montage, which means made from one type of material. I got rather good at it. I made copies of the modern artists, precise copies to the size and the color, except instead of being on a flat canvas, I made them out of pieces of wood. The process of making those animals, actually making the animal twice. I start out with hoops made out of 1/4-inch diameter steel, and that creates the basic shapes of the body or the head. And then the next stage is to cover the whole sculpture with pieces of metal cut from oil drums. I could actually stop after the first process and have what you saw in the animal room with the coat hangers. It's a wire frame. In the case of the elephant and the lion and the eagle hanging from the ceiling and the fish man, those were frames covered with pieces of oil drum material. I built this when I lived in the Bahamas. That's in 1968, I think it was. That's a lampshade with a trumpet valve. That's a 1910 Ford kerosene lantern. This is from a Xerox machine with a shock absorber. The engineer is made out of mattress ticking and clay. His eyebrows are almost human hair from 15 different parts of my body because I don't throw anything away.
Growing up out at Solomon's Castle was, I thought everybody's dad was innovative and creative like my dad was. You really had to keep an eye on your toys. They're liable to disappear and be enveloped into a sculpting. My dad works in the shop every day. He's almost 80 years old, but I think that's what helps keep him youthful. He's active. He'll be in his shop 3 to 4 hours a day, sometimes up to 6 hours.
I started out making little owls, and then from my imagination and looking at different shapes of scrap wood, they turned into pointy head owls or gnomes. I cut them, I take them over to the sander, take off the hard edges. I take them over to the welding table and burn off the fuzz or put some dark color into it with a torch. Then I put a little bit of urethane on them to cover up the burned part so it doesn't come off on your fingers. And I glue in the eyes and maybe a button nose, and it's all done. I make hundreds of them in a year's time, and they're inexpensive, and they're like a souvenir from Solomon's Castle.
People ask, you know, like, how did my dad do? How could he possibly do so much in a lifetime? He is very artistic, but I think the difference between my dad and most artists is he also has a great business mind.
I was born an artist and raised in a business atmosphere. So I have the unusual combination of both. My unique situation is I don't have to sell anything because people are paying me to look at it. If I sell something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have to replace it because it's foolish to sell something people are paying you to look at.
My dad pretty much raised me to believe in if you have a dream, you should go after it. You know, even if other people don't really understand it or accept it, be sure to keep compassion at the front of your brain and in your heart. And as long as you're not hurting anyone, and even if people don't really accept you or what you're doing, then you should do where your heart leads you.
I tell people that I retired when I came here. I was 37 years old, and my retirement became a hobby, and then it became a business.
To learn more, visit solomonscastle.org. For Wisconsin painter Lynn Casper, her attention to detail is easily seen in her cityscapes, maritime scenes, and depictions of life at the University of Wisconsin.
From sports to the historic scenes to contemporary scenes to panoramas to little highly detailed depictions of doorways and porticos. I've done the gamut, really. And I think that's what has kept it interesting for me, is never sticking to one thing. My name is Lynn Casper, and I'm an artist. I'm an artist that combines realism, detail, and impressionistic touches in a contemporary way. I like to populate my paintings with people and bring a liveliness to the viewer and invite the viewer into the scene. I spend a lot of time on compositions for my pieces. Color and contrast and textures make an interesting view for the eye to kind of just descend into the distance of the piece. So you get almost an abstract feel in portions of the piece, and maybe a little bit tighter and more detailed for detailed elements of the piece. I had back injuries and I had to change my technique, because I couldn't bend over for certain controlling of watercolor washes. So I ended up doing this mixed media technique, which I've applied now to experimentally to a different type of board and a different type of surface. The title of the piece is River Walk Reflections, basically because the city is reflected in the river. And we're playing up the renaissance of the River Walk, which is a popular place for strolling, and I wanted to feature how the lighting along the river at night draws people into the scene. In the piece, we have many of the iconic buildings that define the river as seen from the Kilburn Avenue Bridge. It's a night scene, a moonlit night scene. The buildings are lit and kind of glow from below from the light of the harp lamps. The harp lamps give a glow to the lower parts of the buildings in the piece, and they reflect in the water, as well as other lights coming from the windows of the buildings and the bridges down the river. In this piece, I wanted to emphasize the vitality of our city in a contemporary way, how popular a place it has become. I took photos, reference photos, both. It was always at night, but during the summer months, and then also this winter, I took some photos. Because the lighting does change on some of the buildings, and I wanted to capture the lighting at its most dramatic. I used them as reference, and then I worked composition off of various elements from an assortment of photos and combined them all into almost like a panorama of the night scene. For this particular piece, it was a reverse of what I usually do. For many years, being a watercolorist, you are very conscious of keeping and establishing the whites in the piece. This time around, I prepared a ground surface that was black, and I worked in reverse from black to the highlights. Yeah, it was a totally different process and challenge for me. And I enjoyed it because there's a graduation and a shading to get the glow from the lights on the buildings and all. And it was a buildup of lights. I love architecture. I graduated from Madison with a degree in art history, but most of my classes were in architectural history. I absolutely love that whole aspect, but also people and documenting how buildings looked, going through Fire Atlas maps to see what was located in various buildings at the time, and researching the lighting of the period, because I did a whole series of scenes of historic Milwaukee, and thoroughly enjoyed the challenge of depicting the buildings as they looked with the people in the street as they were dressed, and then went on to other things because I liked the challenge of different subjects. Going into the sports aspect of it with the University of Wisconsin, band director Mike LaCrone asked me to do some work for the band, depicting them. There's a joyful optimism in my work. That makes me feel good because when I'm in a scene working on a painting, I want to be there myself. That's the type of thing I want to paint, is would I want to be there?
To see more, visit lyncasperfineart.com. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find feature videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation is made possible by donations to Curate, the Arizona PBS Arts and Culture Fund, and by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you.